Well, our next guest is one of those real smart dudes. His name is Nathan Pritchett. He's with Fab Lab Tulsa. Good to have you.
Thanks for having me.
I'm almost intimidated hearing what you've done, what you've been involved with over the years. I mean, you've covered some territory. What is Fab Lab?
That's an excellent question. There's a couple ways to answer it. One of the easiest things is Fab Lab is kind of like the room of requirement in Harry Potter. It becomes whatever the person using it thinks it needs to be. And so if you're
I like this already.
Yeah, so if you're a teacher or a student, it becomes a classroom. If you're a hobbyist, it can become a place to tinker and to do self-directed projects. And if you're an entrepreneur, it becomes a rapid prototyping lab or a place to do micro manufacturing. And that's really what's been amazing about it is you have to be the one to do that work, and it really becomes whatever you need it to be.
Are there folks there that, I suppose, for lack of a better word, would be classified as enablers who would show you the ropes?
Yeah, enabler is probably the right word. Yes, we have a staff. We have an incredible staff of mechanical engineers, chemical engineers.
Oh, really?
People in backgrounds people in backgrounds of electronics as well as education. What you get the advantage of when you come and use the Fab Lab is we maintain the facility, we maintain the equipment, and you get access to really expensive pieces of equipment, sometimes equipment that might cost $30,000, but you don't have to buy that yourself, and you don't have to put it in your garage at home. You can come in and use ours sometimes for less than $2 an hour in usage.
You know, about a year ago, I was wondering if anybody was going to fill this niche because, by golly, it's needed. There are men and women out there with ideas, widgets that they'd like to bring to fruition, and they don't know how to do it.
That's exactly right. And one of the things that we do is, back to your point about being an enabler, is we give people access to these resources. And what you find is when you give people access to resources, you give them opportunity. And really what Fab Lab Tulsa is about is providing opportunity to everyone across this massive spectrum of people.
What are we seeing here?
That's an amazing project. That hand is part of a program called Enable. There was a gentleman in Boston, his son was born without a hand, and he was told that his son was not eligible for a prosthetic because he was too young, the prosthetic was too expensive, and he would outgrow it too quickly. So he did a project where he designed it himself, and he open sourced the idea and put the plans online so anyone, anywhere in the world who has access to the internet can go to his website, can download those plans, and if you have access to a 3D printer or a Fab Lab, you can do it yourself. What's also amazing about that open access is that you can make adjustments and changes to it. So people have made, for example, versions that hold drumsticks so their kids can learn how to play the drums.
Go away.
Or even versions that hold guitar picks so your child can learn how to strum a guitar
No kidding.
with a prosthetic.
Wow, I mean, you're opening doors here with this. What are we seeing here?
This is a CNC router. This is one of the best machines we have in the lab. It's one of the examples I give because it's one of those expensive machines. Our investment in that is almost $30,000. I'm not going to put one in my garage at home. Companies have versions of these. They have the $100,000 version, but they don't let you and I play with them. And so at Fab Lab Tulsa, we'll let anyone come in, whether they're a 12-year-old or an 80-year-old, and we give them the ability to use these tools and equipment.
How do one get to come over and play? I want to come play at your place, man.
The first thing you want to do is you should come in for a tour. So if you haven't come and you don't know what it's like, come in. We do a tour every Saturday at 3 o'clock, and you don't have to have a reservation or let anyone know. You do have to be there on time. We are engineers, and when we say 3 o'clock, we mean 3 o'clock and not 3:05. So come on time, come early. If that doesn't work for you, drop in or give us a call if you've got a group and be glad to show you around. The Fab Lab is the kind of place that, as you kind of noted, can be overwhelming at first. There's just so much opportunity it almost seems that there's no limits. So if you can come in, take a tour, a lot of people will go away for a week or two, and then they'll call us and they'll say, it just hit me on the head. I have a project, I have an idea, and now I'm ready to come in.
I'm sorry, but I'm way ahead of you. 3 o'clock Saturdays?
Yes, every Saturday at 3 o'clock.
Guess I'll be there. I can't be there this Saturday, but I'm coming.
That's okay, everyone.
I've got to see this. The unit that, and I'm not quite sure what to call it, but it's where you take in an idea and this thing, well, like the hand. We saw the hand. Was that made out of polymer?
That was either an ABS or PLA plastic.
Okay, so the thing takes your design essentially and hammers it out, the wrong term, but makes it.
Makes it is a correct term. So it's what we call additive manufacturing. And in the past, we would start with large materials and we would remove the materials that we don't need. 3D printing is a form of additive manufacturing. So you start with a blank plate, and in this case, we're using what's called fused deposition printing. And what that means is we're taking ABS or PLA plastic that can be reformed through heat. We put the plastic raw material through an extruder, it heats it up, and it pushes it out the extruder. While it's pushing it, it moves along these X and Y and Z axes, and it forms that piece. So it literally, the way you might think of it is it grows, and it grows from the ground up. And this is the kind of technology that people are really excited about. When you hear stories about the Navy, for example, putting 3D printers on ships, what that means is that they will no longer need to carry spare parts. They will carry raw materials.
Really?
They'll download designs for the parts they need, and they'll make those as they need them.
So they don't have to go right back to port?
No, and they don't have to have an entire storage unit on their ship anymore.
Oh, man. Why did it happen when I'm this old? Why didn't it happen when I was a younger guy?
This is the thing we talk about with millennials and young students today. They're going to live through what this is being called as the third industrial revolution. Oh, so man. I know you all were talking about computers, and computers went from mainframes to desktops to laptops to smartphones, and now everything is a computer, right, with the Internet of Things. We see the same thing happening along the way through manufacturing. So machines used to make one thing really well. We digitize them so they can do multiple things. In the future, we're going to have what we want is we want the Star Trek replicator, something that can make almost anything.
Want to be there when that happens.
That's
Nathan,
right.
thank you, my friend, for coming in.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
What a great, I'm going to be there. Okay. I'm going to come over and see it.
Can't wait to see it.
That's all the time we have for this edition of Perspectives. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you again next time. I'm not kidding.